So if you guys would allow me just to say a couple of words that I have over here, and then we can go straight into our questions. So water.org is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering people in the developing world to gain access to safe water and sanitation. Mr. White's entrepreneurial vision has driven innovations in the way water and sanitation projects are delivered and financed, and these innovations now serve as a model in the sector. Mr. Matt Damon is an Academy Award winner, an actor, a screenwriter, producer, and humanitarian. Mr. Damon has long been devoted to environmental and social issues, including climate change science, early childhood education, fighting hunger in America, and ending extreme poverty and mass atrocities. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, I know you've never been in front of a camera, but do your best. Don't make us look bad.
You guys are doing great, by the way. Yeah.
We're on every Sunday night at the...
This is your moment. The doors are locked.
I know. Give me your money, everybody. Okay, focus. I just had a cup of coffee in the back. Sorry. So I love how both of you explain the gravity of the global water crisis and how you put into perspective using statistics. One example is a child under 5 will die every 21 seconds because of a preventable water-related disease. Think about that. I'd love for you guys to share some more of these statistics with our audience.
Yeah, I mean, that one was always the one that was kind of arrested me the most when I first heard it, and I've tried to repeat it as many places and in as many ways as I can. But yeah, I mean, the problem is just so massive. But given that we know a kid is dying every 20 or 21 seconds from something that's completely preventable, I mean, think of it in those terms. We solved this here in the West 100 years ago. Just imagine if we solved AIDS tomorrow or cancer, and in 100 years, children were still dying by the millions. It's really unconscionable, and that was really kind of what drew me to water was the enormity, water and sanitation, the enormity of the problem, and how it really underlined everything. We were talking about extreme poverty and engaging with extreme poverty. You cannot solve poverty without solving water and sanitation.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you. I have a few more stats over here, Gary. If you
you would ask me about stats, sorry.
But it affects 2.6 billion people around the world. Gary, you want to?
I mean, there's still, today, 740 million people who lack access to improved water supply, and 2.5 billion lacking access to sanitation. And I think that it's a huge issue statistically, but when you get behind the numbers and what this is really about, we're talking about, urban areas, and sanitation is just, it's unimaginable the issues that are associated with sanitation in large, mega cities today. And you boil it down into like human cost. And I know there was a story this summer about these 2 girls in India who were practicing open defecation. They had no toilet at their home. And if you're a young girl, you don't go out during the day to defecate, to relieve yourself. You wait all day. And these girls were out searching for a place to relieve themselves, and they were raped and murdered simply because they didn't have a toilet at their home. And you multiply this out by the number of people that face this issue in terms of the health issues of that. If you aren't relieving yourself, what it does to your body. Women who are carrying water their whole lives and the chronic back pain that goes along with it. And all of these economic things that contribute as well. Malnutrition and stunting. There's a lot of reports out now about we're not going to make any progress on malnutrition and stunting until we get adequate sanitation in these cities. So I just wanted to let you know that it weaves its way through everything, but on the upside, there's a lot of positive things. There are a lot of positive solutions and ways of approaching this.
Yeah, I mean, one of them is for every dollar invested in clean water and sanitation, there's a $5 to $8 return in GDP growth.
Yeah, it's shaving huge percentages off of GDP right now, where economies could be growing. But you have to have that foundation And for us, I think we take it so much for granted, but you can't imagine a modern city even beginning to think about developing, an internet or transportation until you get water and sanitation.
Yeah. Speaking of technology, there's more people in the world who have access to a cell phone than they do to a clean glass of water.
It's very interesting because, we come from a part of the world where we know the value of water because our ancestors had trouble finding water, so that value's there. And that's why, in our region, there's a lot of financial resources put behind water initiatives. But Gary, you found that, 50 to 60% of failure rate is when you don't have the user involved in implementing the solution. And that's where the water credit initiative comes into play. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that's working.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, the bad news is that there's so many people that still lack these services. The good news is that there are ways to reach them. There's never going to be enough charity in the world to make this problem go away. So we have to look at innovative and market-based solutions. And Matt and I have traveled around a lot, in some of these slums around the world, and particularly, people we've met in India, and meeting a woman there who was paying 125% interest to a loan shark so she could just build a toilet. Other women doing the same to get a water connection. It's like, what if we could connect microfinance together with water and sanitation, because it wasn't being addressed by microfinance because it wasn't seen as income generating. So what we hope to do is nudge microfinance towards making loans so people could afford to pay to connect to a water utility or build a toilet. And now what we've done is reach over 1.6 million people with loans instead of charity. This has leveraged more than $70 million in commercial finance that comes in to fund these loan portfolios. 91% of the borrowers are women, and 99% of the loans are repaid.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's huge.
And actually, we should say, through kind of abandoning the old direct impact model and just digging wells, and doing water credit, which Gary's being very humble. This is an idea that he pioneered, and this is really scaling now. So by the end of next year, we're at 1.6 million people that we've reached. By the end of next year, we'll be at 3 million. So it's really scaling quickly, and this is all made possible in India from this grant we got from the PepsiCo Foundation, and they've been incredible. They've been with us from the very beginning.
Matt, we read a document where you both talked about reorienting the global conversation around water stress, and you categorized them into two. So resource-constrained stress, and you cited Asia as an example, and finance-constrained stress, and you cited Africa as an example. So what are the challenges and dynamics of each? And both of you feel free to answer that.
Okay, this had flashed for a second. I'm wondering if we need to roll the video, though. Sorry, are we okay?
Oh. I didn't see that watch there.
Oh, we need to wrap.
Are we supposed to stop when it goes to zero?
I'm particularly, I hosted the Jimmy Kimmel show last year, and they told me I had to be in charge of the clock, and I did such a bad job of it that in an hour-long show, I was over by a half an hour. So I'm particularly sensitive to the blinking light that says, sorry, we need to wrap this discussion.
Oh, sorry. Now I got the title of being the worst when it comes to the clock. Thank you very much for that.
Wait.
But listen, this is an incredibly interesting and complex issue to engage with, and we don't just need money, we need brain power. So we would love if you all went to water.org and started to read about it if you're interested. There's a lot to learn. It's endlessly intriguing and complex and fun to engage with, and there are real solutions out there, very real solutions that can help a lot of people very soon if we just engage with this.
Matt, and just very quickly, the issues in India, and just a quick note about your work in India as well, just before we wrap.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're through this grant with PepsiCo Foundation, we were targeted to hit 800,000 people, which is essentially, really quickly, I'll say, the philanthropic cost per person reached is $25 to give somebody clean water for life if you're doing kind of classic well systems. We've driven that cost down to between $6 and $7 through these loan programs. So you're getting much more bang for your buck, and we've already hit our 800,000 in India, and we still have another year to go.
Well, in the collaboration that's gone along with that, so with PepsiCo kind of paving the way, and then we then have other foundations, the IKEA Foundation, MasterCard, Caterpillar, they've all then followed along behind this to add more capital to it to expand the model even further. We think we could reach hundreds of millions of people.
And we could reach hundreds, but McKinsey did a study we could definitely reach hundreds of millions of people, and the president has been great. And when we talked to him, to President Clinton a few years ago, he just said, just keep running those numbers up, just run them up. And he was right. That's exactly what we need to do to prove the concept, to get you all to understand that this really works, because that's when people engage, and we must move to the CGI video now.